Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod. I'm Grant Davis, and the big question on most Trekkies' minds right now is, what was the burn? And just how sick was it? But first, a quick spoiler warning, we are going to be talking a lot about Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery opens on our crew jettisoning into the future around the year 3189, 3188 if you're Burnham, you got there a little bit early. And they've all learned about this mysterious, cataclysmic historical event referred to as the Burn. The Burn. The Burn. An event during which all of the dilithium, that stuff that allows you to go warp speed across the galaxy, suddenly, mysteriously, went inert. Simultaneously, like across the entire galaxy. And not only that, it also started exploding. It exploded in all the warp cores and all the ships. Just boom, 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 boom. Lots of explosions, lots of death, makes the Death Star look pretty tame in comparison. This event, which occurred roughly about a century before the current time period our Discovery crew finds themselves in, has caused the collapse of the Federation of Starfleet across the galaxy. Because no dilithium, no warp speed. And that means it's kind of hard to unite everyone if it takes 4 revs to travel across the galaxy. Not everyone has a sweet-ass spore drive, and not everyone has a sweet-ass Stamets. So the question is, what could have caused the burn? The show is certainly dangling that mystery in front of us, but they've also given us a few clues as well. Clue number 1. We do know that the burn was a simultaneous galactic-wide event that quite literally decimated Starfleet.
38 member worlds that we're aware of, down from 350 at its peak.
This was not some chain reaction from which they were able to pinpoint a particular source. And it seems likely that the burn was a deliberate act, given that it destroyed dilithium indiscriminately across the galaxy, regardless of age of the dilithium or quality of condition. Clue number 2. We know that about 200 years prior to the burn, there was already a growing scarcity problem with dilithium, and things were getting a little bit desperate, and exacerbating that scarcity could have been a prime opportunity. Who might have benefited from that? And clue number 3. We know that the Federation sought to develop some alternate warp travel technology, but to no avail. But what about Poe's recrystallization tech aboard Disco? What about using a nuke to recharge the dilithium crystals like they did in Star Trek IV Voyage Home? You know, the one with the whales. And surely plenty of people were aware of the spore drive technology from Discovery before its mysterious disappearance. Why did all of their attempts fail? Okay, transparent aluminum hat theory time. Theory number 1. A futuristic time traveler did it. We've now received a bit more information about the temporal wars, about how time travel is outlawed in this time period, and how we've seen in the previous movies and films of Trek that time travel has been used several times to save the galaxy.
We're going to attempt time travel.
In fact, that's why our Disco crew's even here in the first place. Is it possible that some future time traveler, some Time Lord if you will, went back in time to destroy all of the dilithium in order to save the future? I mean, this is probably one of the most common time travel tropes. Maybe the traveler from TNG stepped in to change things? Or maybe they've gone to the well of time travel to solve things one too many times and they don't want to retread on that story ground. So let's move on to theory number 2. The Discovery crew did it. Piggybacking off the dangerous ramifications of time travel, what if the Disco crew opening the wormhole in the way they did, to the when and where that they did, actually inadvertently triggered the burn? While time travel is not necessarily linear, let's simplify things and look at it this way. Event number 1. Our crew opens the wormhole to point A. Event number 2. Burnham travels through the wormhole, but by the time she arrives on the other side, she lands at point B, which we know is the year 3188. Event 3. The Discovery follows on Burnham's heels and arrives at point C. And Event 4. Burnham goes and closes a wormhole at point D. And while she closes it from her point of view at 3188, clearly it was never closed before Disco got through in 3189. So the wormhole interaction with the timeline is certainly wacky and hard to pinpoint. Let's look back at point A real quick. If B and C are 1 year apart, and there was a gap between the opening of the wormhole and Burnham and Disco going through it, Is it possible that that time gap was roughly 120 years? And that exact opening of the wormhole prior to their passage through it was the catalyst for the burn? So they might have saved all life across the galaxy from control, but the burn was the cost. Theory number 3, the Federation did it. Look, dilithium was scarce. Might the Federation, in their quest to find some other form of warp travel, have messed up and caused the burn? Like we mentioned earlier, they had paths to examine the recrystallization of dilithium via records on Poe and records of the events of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, the one with the whales. They knew the spore drive was an alternative too. So they must have been on their path to try and figure out one of these methods that might have been able to allow them warp speed technology. And they failed miserably, catastrophically. The great unifying force across the galaxy, potentially accidentally causing the greatest galactic genocide, would be quite the twist and some heavy burden for the cast of Disco to navigate as they try to rebuild. And finally, theory number 4, the Giusep strike back. Okay, this is a tricky one, but bear with me here. What intelligent entities have instantaneous access to all matter across the galaxy and could potentially orchestrate a simultaneous dilithium explosion like this? And what has also been a backbone plot for every season of Discovery thus far? The Giusep, the species of multidimensional fungus living in the mycelial network. And why might the Giusep have beef with the galaxy? Well, we've already explored the fragility of their network when Stamets' interaction with them had ramifications, sometimes extreme, like when he recreated Culber in Shroomland, or when evil Mirror Stamets was pulling power from them without any sort of consideration. See, the problem is that knowledge of this technology didn't simply die with the Discovery time jumping. And the recreation and exploitation of the spore drive would be on the mind of a lot of different factions, not just Starfleet. So what if the mycelial network, which exists inside and outside of time across the galaxy, saw the writing on the wall about the exploitation of their world, and they struck out in a way that would pump the brakes on the galaxy? The burn. This would not be intentionally malicious, mind you, just desperate and defensive. And it would also take the Disco crew to recognize the rift and pave a new path toward understanding and reconciliation. Okay, so like Admiral Vance said, there are numerous theories on what potentially caused the burn. And these are just a few of ours for you to chew on. We'd love to hear what you think about what caused the burn as well, so hit us up in the comments. And be sure to check out our weekly live Discovery episode reviews on this channel every Thursday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can also subscribe to our podcast at StarTrekPod.co. All right, that's all I got for now. Live long and prosper.